As bold as lions. As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
You're listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast.
Well, hello and welcome. Another edition of the As Bold as Lions podcast. Always a blessing to sit down and share a word with you, something that I hope inspires you and encourages you just to go deeper in your walk with Christ. That's, for me, my highest aim, my highest goal in doing any of this. I don't care if 2 people listen or 12 or 200. I just want to know that somehow this pointed somebody to Jesus. It was a bright spot in their day to let them know that, hey, you're loved by a creator, the creator. He loves you deeply and that he has a good and perfect plan for your life. So as we go into our discussion today, I just want you to know that up front. And hopefully that if you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, that is just something that you needed to hear, and that what follows will just be a blessing for you. We are in Turkey Month, and I guess it's kind of a special episode, kind of a no special bells and whistles, but it is Thanksgiving coming up. That's definitely in the front of my mind, and love that holiday, love the gathering. Of course, there's a lot of prep. There's a lot of things that go into that meal, and maybe some people you do just kind of a low key type of thing. That's cool. Maybe you order out, whatever. Done some of that. Probably going to do some of that this year, and just all of it to gather around and see a lot of just faces around the table that are excited and joyful and thankful. All of us just being thankful to have that time together and to think of what we have to be grateful for this past year. You might listen to this after Thanksgiving, and that's perfectly fine too. I know that these kind of live a long time out there in cyberspace land, and you may come upon this later, and that's great. Hopefully this all still translates outside of just this time frame, this period. I do want to make note, last year I did a 3-part series in November. The Things I'm Thankful For series. I enjoyed that. That's one of the series of just more personal things that I think I shared, more transparent of my own life as far as my family, coming to my own testimony in Christ, finding meaning and purpose through that. Just a lot of my own personal experience in following the Lord. So that may be something to just invite you to go back and re-listen to. I don't necessarily talk about those things all the time. So if somebody's like, hey, I want to know more about you or your background, sometimes it's just easier to point you to that and say, well, check this out. This is a podcast that you may be interested in and may give you a little bit more of my story. Maybe it's just that sometimes a person doesn't always want to talk about themselves. They want to get to the business of just talking about Jesus and talking about what he wants for us. But our testimonies are important in that. And I've learned that a lot over the last year, that we should not forsake our testimonies. We should not downplay them, because the Lord is going to use them, and your testimony is powerful and effective. So there's a lot of that in the Things I'm Thankful For series. Be great to just dust those off and kind of put them out there fresh again. But you got to go back a little ways and find them, and not too hard to do, but just got to scroll a little. This year, even though it's just one episode, this episode, I thought it'd be appropriate to kind of turn that topic around and point the question at you and myself again, I guess, but to say, what are you thankful for? And that's obviously the topic, the title that you saw. And maybe right now, as you hear that, as you read that, it's just a good time to hit pause and come back to this, but just consider for a moment, what am I thankful for? What, as I, from looking to Thanksgiving, as that's right around the corner, or in recent memory, whenever you're hearing this, do I have time to reflect on that and actually think about that? And if I were sitting down across from a table with you, maybe having a cup of coffee, whatever, what would you say? How would you answer that question? So, and maybe you did that. Maybe you're back now. Maybe not. That's fine. But truth be told, I asked this question on my Facebook social media account, Derek Charles Johnson. I think it's Derek Charles Johnson 1 or something like that, because there must have been somebody out there with the same name that got to that account first. But anyway, you can search me up and find me. This post, I just said, what are you thankful for? Got a whole host of comments, great comments, things that just got me to think about things that people were expressing there. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I'm thankful for many of these things as well. Of course, you had the answers of friends and family, grandchildren, kids, parents, whatever. A couple people said things like good food, having needs and things met. Even, a couple personal ones. Somebody was thankful for my wife, which of course I'm thankful for her too, a friend of hers. Another who was a friend of mine just said grateful for me, which was super kind. I wasn't looking for that or fishing for anything like that, but that was just really blessed me. But a few that just stuck out, and a theme that I kept seeing was just thankfulness for Jesus, thankfulness for salvation, thankfulness for the Lord. Just like, wow, those are hard to top. I don't even want to try to top those. But as we are in this November, this month, there's so much to be thankful for. And I think these all just kind of remind us of this posture that we should have. And that's kind of where I want to camp out for the majority of this episode on thankfulness, why it's so important. I think we can learn a lot by not just developing this mindset around every fourth Thursday out of November, just one day out of the year, but that we can really take this into the other 364 days of the year and kind of just live in this mindset continually. So I have some points today just to share with you, some things regarding this topic of what are you thankful for, and some things that maybe we can consider as we're gathering around the table, or we're thinking about this time together. So first thing I have is thankfulness is a mindset that marks us daily as Christians. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. As Paul is ending his first letter to the church in Thessalonica, he's admonishing them to do various things. And it's this list that he has, the things that he's listing off, it's a pretty high calling. So he's setting the bar high. He says, be peaceful, be encouraging, help the weak, be patient. And then he adds some qualifiers to it, which in my mind means like, okay, how often is this supposed to be done? He says, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. So in other words, he's saying about these things, do them all the time. Kind of just, if I had my Bible, I'd highlighting, underline that, saying these things we do continually. So in that category is being thankful. It should be in the same breath as rejoicing always and praying without ceasing. And are they high callings? Yes, they are to think about that. But is it too much to attain? Well, some of us, we might think that way, but really there's no out clause. There's no kind of getting around this. In other words, Paul he's not giving us a shortcut to say, hey, you can be thankful some days, but if you really don't have anything to think about or consider, then, leave it aside on other days where it's harder to think about. Just reminds me of a saying or something I heard once of if we prayed to the Lord and we only prayed for the things that we were thankful for today, and then we didn't have anything else that we didn't pray for tomorrow, how would that change our prayer life? How would we go about praying if we were really truly just expressing that to the Lord? If we stopped being thankful for things and then we didn't have those the next day, how would that change us? How often are we thankful? It may come and go, and we may feel it at certain points more than others. But the truth really here is this: the gospel should daily remind us to be thankful. The gospel should remind us every day to be thankful. What Christ has done should keep us in this perpetual state of gratitude, of thankfulness. We have to be in a place where we're reminded of that every day, where we're thinking about that. And it takes recognizing our sin and our brokenness, and then Christ's perfect sacrifice all at once. He is the perfect sacrifice. We have this verse in Hebrews 7:27, the perfect high priest who has gone before us. It says this: he has no need, like those high priests, talking about the Old Testament, to offer sacrifices daily, first for his own sins and then for those of the people, since he did this once for all when he offered up himself. Sometimes it's just thinking of verses like that and having them in front of us and reminding us of, okay, this is what Jesus has done for me, and I am thankful as a result of that. So our thankfulness is a mindset that's marking us daily. The second thing I have today is thankfulness flows from a life of worship. Colossians 3, verse 16, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. When we're living in a life of worship, we're portraying thankfulness. As the word dwells in us, and Paul's saying it dwells richly, we are teaching, we are admonishing, we are singing. And what's it all done in? It's done with a thankful heart, with a thankful mindset, a thankful spirit. You may have heard this phrase before. I think about it on a fairly regular basis with just ministry and things that I'm doing. It's this: it's hard to lead others to a place that you have not already been. Hard to lead someone else to a place where you've not already been. It's something that, as I take a stage, a platform on almost a weekly basis to lead worship and bring others before the Lord, I hold on to that because I'm not able to really function in that capacity unless I've spent time in worship. Same thing, helping other aspects at home with my kids, just all across the board. For me to lead them means that I have to have some time spent in worship and already practicing some of these things. And one thing that makes special within us is this attitude of gratitude, that this just kind of starts rising up within us. If you think about it, we're beings that are created for worship. We're all going to worship something, whether you profess to be a Christian or you are an atheist, or you're some other religious adherent to some other God or whatever. You're created to worship something, and you are filling that need with something. When we come to a point where we find what our worship was truly meant for, that is born out of a place of thankfulness. It just naturally overflows. Worship and thanksgiving are naturally going to go hand in hand. And this is something we see in Psalm 69, verse 30. I will praise the name of God with a song. I will magnify him with thanksgiving. So a question to just kind of tie into this, are you worshiping? And from that, are you thankful? Because there's a tie-in together. And really, I think when we're not worshiping the right thing, when we're not in that mindset, then we're led to be less thankful. When we're worshiping, our wallet or whatever it is we're after, if it's the bank account, the car, the home, the status, something at our jobs, when we're allowing that to become our focus, we're not naturally drawn towards being thankful. So this is something to consider, that second point. Thankfulness is going to flow out of a life of worship. Finally, thankfulness puts all the recognition back on Jesus. 1 Samuel 12, verse 24. Going to the Old Testament. Only fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart. For consider what great things he has done for you. When we are thankful, we avoid a spirit of pride or, wow, look what I've done, look what I've achieved, that sort of thought, that trail of thought. This is the prophet Samuel's farewell address. We have 1 Samuel 12. And he's recognizing that in order to avoid sin and going astray from the Lord, the nation of Israel had to consider what God had done for them. They had to consider his fulfillment of his promises, his covenant with them, not only for them, but for future generations. And this was serious stuff. To forget all of this, to just wander away from it, would be akin to just falling off the path and falling into disobedience, and then eventually going through correction, coming in the form of various nations, foreign countries coming in and occupying and taking over the land. And we see that playing out in the Old Testament. It's like Samuel warns them against these things, but within a few generations, they indeed happen. To stay on the path, to not go astray, was to stay and follow God's blessing. How would they do that? How do we do that? We consider what God has done, and we stay in a mindset of thankfulness. It's not necessarily hard, but it does take submission, daily submitting to the Lord's will, yielding to his will, and following him. And perhaps that idea of submission and surrender, you're thinking, Thanksgiving, it's a podcast kind of on Thanksgiving. Why? What's that doing in here? Well, if we, just as Israel, consider the things that God has done, we're going to be led into a place of thankfulness and appreciation. We're going to then want to just surrender and follow him even more, because he has done great things. And that's a good place. That's a holy place to come to in our lives, especially as we come into this time, this season right now. So just recapping really quickly, our thankfulness is a mindset that should mark us daily as Christians. It flows from a life of worship. And finally, it's going to put all the recognition back on Jesus. And just a caveat there is when we don't live in that attitude, we're going to be more easily prone to wander, prone to stray off the path. As I close here, I'm wanting to tie in a song that I wish I had some ability to play some clips of it. I'm going to leave a link, I think, in the notes, so you can go click on it on YouTube, or you can just search it on YouTube. But a lot of you guys know I'm kind of an old school 80s, 90s Christian music fan. That's my era, my heyday. I'm not as up on everything currently, try to be, but one band that just left a mark on me and on just my life as a Christian is a band called Petra. So formative to my early years in listening to Christian music. And I still listen to their stuff on a fairly regular basis. I think it's because when you go through a Petra album and you listen to the songs that they did, a lot of those are just like these mini Bible studies, and they're full of truth. They're full of references to scripture. I think they used to just put even verses from the Bible that were connected to the song, the lyrics that they had. And so in a way, they're a form of worship when I listen to them. They're a form of bringing me into a place of worship. And anyway, there's a song that I think of often around this time of year. It's from an album they did called Back to the Street. This was like mid-'80s, 1985, 86, somewhere in there. But the song is called Thankful Heart. And the song just reminds me of the posture I need to have in terms of thankfulness towards the Lord. And so as I close, I just wanted to read some of the lyrics of this song, Thankful Heart by Petra, and just to kind of camp out here as we end, just to realize this is sort of the attitude, this is sort of the mindset. And as we talk about worship connected to thankfulness, this is kind of a tangible way to express this and show this. It says, "There's no way to begin to tell you how I feel. There are no words to express how you've become so real. Jesus, you've given me so much I can't repay. I have no offering." The chorus goes on to say, "I have a thankful heart that you have given me, and it can only come from you. I have a thankful heart. Words don't come easily, but I'm sure you can see my thankful heart." He goes on in the bridge to say, "Help me be a man of God, a man who's after your own heart. Help me show my gratitude and keep in me a thankful heart." Guys, I think that our thankfulness, our gratitude is going to show when we are men and women who are after the heart of God. We come before the Lord with thankful hearts, and then we ask to see the world in the perspective that is correct and that is right, that from His perspective. Maybe that is a lot of what Thanksgiving needs to look like for you today. I hope and I pray that your holiday is blessed, that the weeks ahead, as we kind of close out 2023 here, time goes really quickly from here on out. One more podcast in November, then we'll start hitting December stuff, probably some Christmas stuff. But let this time just be filled with thankfulness, gratitude, drawing near to the Lord, experiencing His goodness, His favor over your life. And I'd love to hear from you if there's anything I can pray for, any encouragement I can give you. You can reach out to me. Email is the best way to do that, info@derekcharlesjohnson.com. And I would love to do that. Whether you've had Thanksgiving already or it's coming up, hopefully that day is blessed, and eat lots of turkey, eat lots of stuffing, gravy, all that. Enjoy time with friends and family, football maybe in the mix too, who knows. But I'm leaving you with our closing and theme verse, Ephesians 5:15 through 17. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Take care, and God bless. Hey guys, this is Derek Charles Johnson. You have been listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast. I am a blogger, a songwriter, an artist. And if you've been encouraged by this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and share. And head over to DerekCharlesJohnson.com for more encouraging content. God bless.